When I walked back into my hometown steakhouse after 5 years abroad, I expected to see my son behind the bar, giving orders like a king in his own castle. Instead, I watched him carry plates to a table, wearing a cheap polyester uniform and a name tag, while a stranger barked at him to move faster. That stranger was sitting in my old office, running the steakhouse I had gifted to my son for $1 and a hug. If you were me, what would you do? Before I tell you what I did to these people, stay with me to the end. Then tell me if I went too far, or not nearly far enough. My name is Thomas Blake. I am 68 years old, a widower, a retired restaurateur, and a grandfather of 3. For 35 years I ran Blake's Prime, a mid-sized steakhouse that fed half this town. Cops, teachers, construction workers, the mayor, and anyone who could afford a good ribeye and a stiff drink. My son Daniel is 38. My daughter-in-law Madison is 35. My grandkids, Lily, 10, and the twins, Ben and Carter, 7, still call me Grandpa Tommy when they remember I exist. I built my life out of grease, late nights, and banknotes. When my wife Ellen died from a stroke, something inside me shut down. I signed the business over to Daniel, told him the steakhouse was his future, and took a 5-year consulting contract overseas. I told myself I was letting him stand on his own feet. I told myself I would come back to see him thriving. I told myself a lot of things. The taxi dropped me off across the street from Blake's Prime on a warm Friday night in late May. Neon letters I had paid for myself glowed over the door, but someone had added a chrome script beneath them. A Stonebridge hospitality restaurant. That wasn't there when I left. The parking lot was packed. Good. I wanted the place full. I wanted to see my son in his element. White shirt, tie loose around his collar, talking to regulars, comping desserts, doing what I'd trained him to do since he was old enough to carry a basket of rolls. I stepped inside, and familiar smells hit me first. Charred meat, garlic butter, red wine, and the faint sweetness of the house barbecue sauce I'd perfected in 1987. The hostess stand was in the same place, but the host was a kid who looked like he belonged in a nightclub, not a steakhouse. "Table for one?" he asked without looking up from his tablet. "Actually," I said, glancing around, "I'm looking for the owner, Daniel Blake." He snorted. "Owner? We don't have an owner here tonight, just managers." Something cold slid down my spine. "Daniel Blake," I repeated. "Tall, dark hair, used to run the place. You might know him as the guy whose name is on the sign." The kid shrugged, finally lifting his eyes. "We've got a Danny on shift. He's a server. You want to wait at the bar? I'll tell him you're here." A server. For a moment I actually thought he was joking. But then I saw Daniel. He came out from the kitchen doors balancing a tray with 3 sizzling cast-iron pans, moving quickly between tables, sweat darkening the collar of his cheap uniform shirt. No tie, no blazer, no clipboard in his hand, no tablet, no manager's keys clipped to his belt. Just a server's apron, rolled silverware, and that same stooped posture I'd seen in my youngest waiters when they were 3 hours deep into a dinner rush. He looked older than 38. Deep lines carved into his forehead, hair thinner at the temples. When he turned to the bar to grab drinks, his eyes swept the room and passed right over me. My son did not recognize me at first. 5 years in Qatar will do that to a man. I had lost weight, shaved my beard, cut my hair shorter. But still, your own father? He set the tray down at the pickup station and turned back toward the floor. I stepped out from the bar stool and said quietly, "Danny." He stopped like someone had slapped him. Slowly he turned. His eyes locked on mine. For a second, there was nothing but confusion. Then everything hit at once. "Dad?" I smiled. "Hey, kid." The tray in his hands wobbled. A steak knife slipped off and clattered against the counter. A line cook cursed behind him. The hostess glanced over in irritation. "Take table 12, Danny," a voice barked. It came from my left. A man in his early 40s with an overconfident gut, a tight dress shirt, and a gold watch stepped out of my old office. He had the look I'd seen 1,000 times. Someone who had never opened a restaurant, only bought one that was already running. "Move," he snapped. "You're in the weeds already." Daniel flinched. "Yes, Derek. I'll be right there." He looked at me again, eyes wide and frantic. "Dad, can you wait? Please? Just sit at the bar. I'll come talk to you when I get a break." There it was. My son, the owner I'd left in charge, asking permission from a stranger to talk to me. I nodded slowly. "Go," I said. "Do your job." He rushed off, plates balanced, apology written all over his face but never reaching his lips. I sat at the bar, hands wrapped around a glass of club soda with lime. I watched my son run like an overworked busboy in the restaurant I had built from nothing. I watched Derek, the man with the gold watch, stroll around like a king, pausing occasionally to talk to guests, shaking hands, pointing at things he didn't understand in my kitchen. Twice I saw Daniel approach him as if to ask something, and twice Derek waved him away like a fly. And as I sat there, I realized something I had never allowed myself to consider in all those lonely nights abroad. I had given my son a thriving business, a paid-off building, and my recipes. I had given him my name on the sign. And in 5 years, my son had lost it all. He finished a turn, clocked out, and finally slid onto the bar stool next to me after 10. His apron was stained, his hands shaking as he wiped a wet rag across his face. "Dad," he whispered, "you're really here." "I am," I said, "and I see you're busy." He laughed weakly. "I didn't know you were coming back." "That makes 2 of us," I said. "This trip was decided on the plane. I had a feeling I needed to come home." He swallowed. Didn't meet my eyes. "How long are you staying?" "That," I said, "depends on what you're about to tell me." He finally turned, and for a moment I saw the little boy who used to fall asleep in the booth by the kitchen door while I finished closing counts at 1 a.m. Tears hovered in his eyes but did not fall. "Can we talk outside?" he asked. "I don't want Derek to hear." "Derek," I repeated. "The man barking at you in my restaurant." He flinched at the word "my," but didn't correct me. We stepped out the side door into the warm night, the smell of grilled meat replaced by car exhaust and damp asphalt. The neon sign hummed above us. Blake's Prime, a Stonebridge hospitality restaurant. "Start talking," I said. He leaned against the brick wall, closed his eyes, and exhaled. "I messed up, Dad." "I can see that," I said. "But I need more than that. When I left, you owned this place outright. The building, the land, the business. I handed it all to you. So explain to me why some man wearing a watch he can't afford is calling the shots, and my son is bussing tables." His shoulders sagged. "After you left, things were okay for a while. We kept your regulars. Then Madison started pushing me to scale up. She said we could be a brand, not just a restaurant. More locations. Franchising. She met this guy at a conference, her cousin's husband's friend, who worked for Stonebridge Hospitality. They buy family restaurants and turn them into chains." I could already see where this was going, but I let him continue. "They offered to partner with us," he said bitterly. "They'd inject cash, renovate the place, help us expand if revenues hit a certain mark. I'd keep a stake. We'd be executive partners." It sounded like a dream. "How much of a stake?" I asked quietly. He looked down. "I kept 30%. The air left my lungs. "You sold 70% of my life's work to strangers?" He flinched. "It was my life's work too, Dad. I grew up here. And Madison said you'd be proud, that you'd want us to go bigger. She kept saying we couldn't just be a local place forever, that you were thinking too small, that the world was changing and we had to keep up." "Madison said," I repeated. "Madison said a lot of things, I'm sure." He scrubbed a hand over his face. "At first it was good. They repainted, brought in a new POS system, redesigned the menu. We had lines out the door on weekends. Then they raised prices, cut staff, Started charging corporate fees for branding and marketing services we never saw. We weren't hitting their profit targets, so they took over more of the operations. "And where was Madison in all of this?" I asked. He hesitated. She liked the idea of being a corporate executive's wife. She started staying home more. Said the stress wasn't good for her. Then she started going to networking events with Derek. "Derek," I said, feeling rage curdle in my gut. "The man wearing my office like a costume." "Yeah," he whispered. "Derek Monroe, Stonebridge's regional director. He's the one who reassigned me to the floor after they said my management style was too old school." "You mean you argued when they tried to cut corners on quality?" I said. He nodded miserably. "They said if I wanted to stay, I could work as a server until I earned back their trust. They brought in their own managers. Madison said it was temporary. She said she was working with Derek to get us a better deal." "Is she still working with Derek?" I asked, my voice so calm I almost didn't recognize it. He closed his eyes. "She left 6 months ago," he said. "Filed for divorce. Took the kids. Said she was tired of watching me cling to a sinking ship. She moved into a townhouse on the north side. Derek's townhouse." The world tilted. "She took my grandchildren to live with the man who demoted you to a waiter," I said slowly. He nodded, eyes wet. "She told the kids you abandoned us, that you ran off to some foreign country because you didn't care. They think you chose money over family." I said nothing for a long moment. Traffic passed on the road, headlights sweeping across our faces. Somewhere down the block, a siren wailed. "Did you ever correct them?" I asked. He swallowed. "She threatened to cut off my visitation if I slandered her. I see the kids every other weekend now. Under Madison's terms. Under Derek's roof." I stared at my son. The boy I had carried on my shoulders through county fairs. The teenager I had taught to grill a steak to medium rare by touch alone. The man I had trusted with my legacy. And I realized it wasn't just that he had lost the restaurant. He had lost his spine. "I'm sorry, Dad," he whispered. "I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was building something bigger for the kids. Now I'm just trying to keep my job so I can pay child support." I took a slow breath. "How bad is it?" He laughed without humor. "Our 30% stake is worthless. Stonebridge saddled the business with so many fees and internal loans that we technically owe them more than the place makes. I get my hourly wage and tips. That's it." "What about the building?" I asked. "The land. I kept the deed in a separate LLC for a reason." He froze. "About that," he said, voice breaking. My stomach dropped. "Daniel." "Madison said we needed a line of credit to get through a slow season," he rushed out. "She said Stonebridge would help us refinance. She brought in a banker, they had paperwork ready, He covered his face with his hands. "I signed it, Dad. I signed the building over as collateral to secure a corporate loan. Stonebridge controls the mortgage now. If we miss payments, they take everything." I stared at him, feeling my pulse hammer in my temples. "So you did not just sell them 70% of our business," I said slowly. "You handed them the keys to the land under it too." He nodded, sobbing openly now. "I messed up. I know. You trusted me, and I messed up." I looked back at the neon sign. Blake's Prime. My name. Their logo. My son in a server's apron. My ex-daughter-in-law sleeping in a townhouse I hadn't paid for but might as well have. "Who holds the note?" I asked. He blinked. "What?" "The mortgage," I said. "Who owns the debt on this building now?" "Some bank downtown," he said, wiping his eyes. "Central Meridian. I don't know the details. Derek handles that stuff." I nodded. "All right." "What are you going to do?" he whispered. I put a hand on his shoulder. "What I should have done 5 years ago," I said. "I'm going to clean up my own mess. If you think the worst part of this story is finding my son reduced to a waiter in the steakhouse I built, let me warn you That was nothing compared to what I discovered when I walked into the bank on Monday morning. Central Meridian's downtown branch smelled like air freshener and cheap coffee. The kind of place where they print off death sentences and call them loan agreements. I sat in a leather chair across from a young man named Kyle in a suit too expensive for his age. His nameplate said Senior Commercial Lending Specialist. "How can we help you today, Mr. Blake?" he asked, with a smile that didn't touch his eyes. "I'm here about a commercial mortgage," I said. "Blake Holdings, LLC, property at 412 West Maple, Blake's Prime Steakhouse." His fingers danced across the keyboard. His eyes flicked over the screen. Then his smile grew more professional. "Ah, yes," he said. "We have that file. Are you authorized on the account?" "I founded the company," I said. "I created the LLC. The deed was in my name before I transferred it to the entity. So yes, I'm authorized." He clicked a few more times. "According to our records," he said, "the primary signatory on the loan is one Daniel Blake, managing partner. Your name is listed as former managing member, inactive." My jaw clenched. "Show me the documents," I said. He hesitated. "I'm not sure I can share." I leaned forward, letting my voice drop into the tone that had made more than one supplier cave over the years. "Son," I said, "either you print that file, or I call the state banking regulator and ask them how they feel about a bank accepting a building as collateral without verifying that the grantor's signature was legitimate." His confidence faltered. "Just a moment," he muttered, getting up and disappearing through a frosted glass door. When he came back, he had a thick file folder in his hands. He slid a set of documents across the desk, the top pages already tabbed. "This is the mortgage agreement," he said. "Signed 3 years ago." I looked down. There was Daniel's signature, Madison's, and mine. Except I had never signed those papers. The handwriting looked like mine. The hook on the capital T, the way the H leaned slightly to the right, the flourish on the E. Someone had studied it. Someone had taken their time. My pulse slowed. My breathing deepened. "Kyle," I said quietly, "do you see this signature?" "Yes, sir," he said. "Would you swear in court that you saw me sign this?" He blanched. "Well, no, sir. I wasn't here 3 years ago." "And if I told you that this signature is forged?" I asked. Silence. He stammered. "I'm sure everything was handled properly, Mr. Blake. We had a notary." "Whose stamp," I said, flipping the page, "belongs to one Madison Carpenter Blake, my then daughter-in-law." He swallowed hard. "There," I said, tapping the notary block. Madison's name, Madison's commission number, Madison's stamp. She had notarized my signature. She had notarized a lie. "Thank you, Kyle," I said, closing the folder. "I'll be taking this copy with me." I'm not sure "Call your legal department," I said. "Tell them Thomas Blake has concerns about a potentially fraudulent mortgage using his property as collateral. Tell them he'll be consulting his attorney this afternoon, as well as the district attorney's office. Then ask them how much trouble they want to invite into their Monday." I left him there, eyes wide, sweat gathering at his hairline. Outside, the sun was brighter than before. The town looked the same, but it was not. My son had been weak. He had been foolish. But the ugliness, this level of calculated fraud, that wasn't his. That was Madison, and Derek, and Stonebridge hospitality. I went home to the small bungalow I'd kept even after Ellen died. The house smelled like dust and old memories. Boxes from my overseas contract sat unopened in the hallway. On the table lay a photograph of Ellen holding a newborn Daniel, her smile tired but proud. "I'm sorry," I murmured to the empty room. "I should have stayed. I should have protected him better." But guilt, I have learned, does not cancel responsibility. It fuels it. I called an attorney I knew from my old Chamber of Commerce days, a woman named Karen Mitchell who had a reputation for handling ugly commercial disputes. I emailed her copies of the mortgage documents, the notarized signatures, the Stonebridge operating agreement Daniel had scanned to me that night. She called me back less than an hour later. "Tom," she said, skipping pleasantries, "I've seen some stunts in my time, but this is brazen." "Can we prove it?" I asked. "If that's not your signature, we can bring in a handwriting expert," she said. "And Madison notarizing her own father-in-law's signature on a document that benefits her financially? That's a conflict of interest at best, fraud at worst. The bank will be scrambling once they realize this could blow up in their face." "Good," I said. "I want them scrambling." "What exactly do you want?" she asked. "We can go after Madison and the bank. We can file criminal complaints. We can sue Stonebridge for unjust enrichment. But lawsuits take years." "I don't have years," I said quietly. "I've got a son working double shifts to pay child support and grandkids being raised inside the walls of a man who stole from me. I want something more direct." "Then say it," she said. "What do you want?" "I want my steakhouse back," I said, "and I want Derek and Madison out of our lives." There was a pause, then she said, "All right, then we attack the one thing Stonebridge cares about more than anything." "Money," I said. "Exactly," she replied. Over the next 3 weeks, things started moving, quietly. Karen met with the bank's legal department, waving the specter of fraud charges and regulatory investigations like a torch in a dry forest. Central Meridian suddenly became very eager to resolve the issue amicably. They offered to unwind the mortgage, to transfer the note to another entity, to anything that would keep regulators and prosecutors off their backs. That was my opening. Using the savings I'd accumulated overseas and a line of credit backed by the paid-off bungalow Ellen and I had bought 30 years ago, I formed a new company, Maple Street Properties, LLC. On paper, it had nothing to do with me. One of Karen's partners fronted as manager. The purchase was structured quietly. Within 10 days, Maple Street Properties bought the note on Blake's Prime from Central Meridian at a modest discount. To the bank, it was getting rid of a problematic loan. To Stonebridge, it was just a change of where they sent their check each month. To me, it was something else entirely. It was leverage. I now controlled the debt on my own building. The corporation that had stripped my name from my office and my son from his position answered to me. They just did not know it yet. Meanwhile, Karen quietly filed a complaint with the district attorney's office regarding the forged signature and Madison's notary conduct. An investigator began asking questions. Madison was called in for a chat. Derek ignored the first letter Maple Street Properties sent requesting updated financials and proof of insurance. The second letter was firmer. The third included a formal notice of default. They had missed a payment. A small one, but a missed one. "We got them," Karen said, sliding the paperwork across her desk. "From a purely contractual standpoint, Maple Street Properties now has the right to accelerate the loan and initiate foreclosure proceedings if they don't cure this within 30 days. "How public will that be?" I asked. "Very," she said. "Stonebridge's lenders, partners, and franchisees all talk. Word that they're losing a flagship location in a small town because of mismanagement will not sit well with their investors." I nodded slowly. "Good," I said, "but we're not going to take the building quietly." She raised an eyebrow. "No?" "No," I said. "We're going to show them exactly who they underestimated." 2 weeks later, on a Friday night, I walked back into Blake's Prime. Same neon sign, same smell of searing meat and garlic butter, same gold watch on Derek's wrist, but everything else was about to change. It was 6:30 p.m., the peak of the dinner rush. The parking lot was full, the bar 3 deep, the dining room humming with conversation and clinking silverware. Daniel moved between tables with the defeated grace of a man who knows exactly how much further he can fall. I waited near the hostess stand, hands clasped behind my back. The host looked up, recognized me from my first visit, and opened his mouth to say something. "Relax," I said quietly. "I'm just here to talk to your boss." As if I had summoned him, Derek emerged from my old office, straightening his tie, his face flushed from whatever argument he had just finished having with someone on the phone. He saw me and frowned. "You again," he said. "Look, Mr. Blake, isn't it? I already told you we appreciate your history with the place, but things are different now. We have standards." "I can see that," I said calmly, glancing at a plate passing by with a gray, overcooked steak on it. "Terrible ones." He bristled. "If you're here to cause trouble, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is a place of business." "Yes," I said, "my business. Or more accurately, my building." He smirked. "This building belongs to Stonebridge Hospitality, old man. We have the paperwork to prove it." "Technically," I said, letting my voice carry just enough to hush the tables nearest the hostess stand, "this building belongs to Maple Street Properties, LLC, the entity that now owns the note on your mortgage." His smirk faltered. "What?" "You missed a payment last month," I said. "It was small. Maybe you thought no one would notice. Maple Street Properties noticed. They sent you 3 letters. You ignored all of them." A flush crept up his neck. "I handle those," he said. "We're in the process of—" "You are in default," I said, "and your lender has elected to accelerate the loan. Effective as of today, the entire balance is due in full." The host stared. The bartender froze mid-pour. A couple at the nearest table stopped cutting their steaks. "Who the hell do you think you are?" Derek hissed. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a folded set of papers. I opened them slowly, savoring the moment, and held them out to him. "I am Thomas Blake," I said, "founder of Blake's Prime, former owner of this property, and, as of 3 weeks ago, sole member of Maple Street Properties, LLC." He stared at the papers, then at me. His mouth opened and closed without sound. "This is a joke," he said finally. "Some kind of stunt." "Not at all," I replied. "Your corporate headquarters has been notified. Your regional director— oh, that's you, isn't it— has been notified. Stonebridge has exactly 10 business days to either pay the full outstanding balance in cash or vacate the premises." You can't do that," he stammered. "We have a brand. We have contracts." "You have broken contracts," I said. "And I have the right to enforce mine. In 10 business days, if Stonebridge has not paid, a sheriff will stand where I am standing and present a court order. You will hand him the keys. Or," I added, leaning in slightly, "you can save them the embarrassment and leave sooner." His face went from red to white. "This place would fold without our brand," he spat. "Without Stonebridge's systems, you'd be back to a mom-and-pop shop scrambling for customers." I smiled, and this time it reached my eyes. "You're right," I said quietly. "We would be a mom-and-pop shop again. That's exactly the point." I turned, scanning the floor until I found Daniel refilling water glasses at table 9. "Danny," I called. He glanced up, saw Derek's expression, and went pale. "Dad?" "Come here," I said. He approached cautiously, wiping his hands on his apron, eyes darting between us. "Daniel," Derek snapped, struggling to regain control. "Get back to your section. We're slammed. I don't pay you to socialize." "You don't pay him enough to care what you think," I said mildly. "And in about 2 weeks, you won't pay him at all." "Dad," Daniel whispered, "what are you doing?" "What I should have done the minute you told me about Stonebridge," I said. "I'm taking back what's ours." The dining room had quieted. People were watching openly now, forks hovering over plates, drinks forgotten. I raised my voice just enough for the room to hear me without shouting. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, "I apologize for the interruption. My name is Thomas Blake. I opened this steakhouse 35 years ago. Some of you may remember when our biggest promotion was a free slice of pie for your birthday. I stepped away a few years ago and left things in the wrong hands. That's on me. But I want you to know something. I looked at Daniel. In a few weeks, this place will no longer be part of Stonebridge hospitality, I said. It will be local again. I can't promise fancy corporate logos or focus group menus. But I can promise this. Every steak will be cooked by someone who cares whether you come back. And the man standing next to me, my son, will be running the kitchen, not carrying plates. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some of the old-timers nodded. One man at the bar lifted his glass. Derek, I said, turning back to him, you have 10 days. Use them wisely. Train your staff to replace you. You're insane, he hissed. Stonebridge will bury you in court. Maybe, I said. But given the forged mortgage documents your ex-notary friend Madison submitted, I suspect Stonebridge's lawyers will be too busy explaining to a judge how they ended up entangled in fraud to worry about my little steakhouse. His eyes widened. What did you do? I told the truth, I said. To the bank, to the district attorney, to the notary board. They can sort out the rest. As if on cue, Derek's phone buzzed violently in his pocket. He glanced down, read whatever message had just come in, and suddenly looked like a man watching his own ship sink. This isn't over, he said weakly. Oh, I know, I replied. This is just the beginning. For me. For you, it's the end of the free ride. He pushed past me, storming back toward my office, his office, for what might be the last time. Daniel stood there, speechless, eyes wide. Dad, he whispered, you can't just... I can, I said. I did, but there's a catch. He swallowed. What catch? I will not hand this place back to you the way I did before, I said. I love you, son, but I will not reward weakness twice. When Stonebridge is gone, Blake's Prime will reopen as a family restaurant again, with conditions. What conditions? He asked, voice shaking. You work your way up, I said. No title, no office, no stake on paper. You start where you are, on the floor. You show up early, stay late, treat every customer like they are the only reason we're open. I will manage the books and the building for 1 year. He stared at me, stunned. Just one? 1, I said. In that year, you will learn everything you didn't learn while you were busy signing papers Madison handed you. At the end of that year, if you have proven you can run this place without selling it to the highest bidder, I will sign the building over to you again, on one condition. His voice dropped to a whisper. What condition? That your children's names go on the documents next to yours, I said. Lily, Ben, and Carter. This time you are not just inheriting a steakhouse. You're stewarding it for them. He closed his eyes. Tears spilled down his cheeks. I don't deserve this, he said. You're right, I said gently. You don't. Not yet. But I'm not doing this because you deserve it, Daniel. I'm doing this because I failed you first. I gave you power without teaching you what to do when someone smooth-talking and pretty waved bigger in your face. He laughed through his tears, a broken sound. Madison's going to lose her mind, he said. Madison, I said calmly, is going to be busy answering questions from law enforcement about why she notarized my signature on a document I never signed. She is also going to learn what it means when the man she thought was a burden becomes the man who controls the floor under the roof she lives in, because Derek's Stonebridge salary is about to get very shaky. Is that revenge? He asked. It's justice, I said. Revenge would be taking this place, selling it to the highest bidder, and letting you figure out your life without it. Justice is giving you one last chance to prove you can honor what your mother and I built, while making sure that those who exploited you face consequences. He looked at me, really looked, for the first time since I'd come home. I watched the conflict on his face, the shame, the gratitude, the fear. So what do you say, Danny? I asked quietly. You ready to stop being a waiter and start being a man who earns his second chance? He took a breath. Yes, he said. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. No shortcuts. No more Madison. No more easy deals. Good, I said. Then clean yourself up. Table 7 has been staring at us for 10 minutes. Tonight, you're still a server. Tomorrow, we start over. The next 10 days were chaos. Stonebridge's lawyers called Maple Street Properties every hour, trying to negotiate extensions, file objections, argue technicalities. Karen calmly pointed them back to the default clause they had signed. The district attorney's office opened an investigation into the forged mortgage. Madison freaked out. She called Daniel in tears, screaming that he had betrayed her, that she would take the kids where he'd never see them again. Daniel handed me his phone. Madison, I said, this is Thomas. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. You, she said, dripping contempt. I should have known. What you should have known, I replied, is that notarizing a signature that wasn't signed in front of you is a crime. Doing it on a document that hands your father-in-law's building to a corporation for your financial benefit is stupidity. You left, she hissed. You abandoned your son. You left me to pick up the pieces. No, I said calmly. I trusted my son. I misjudged your influence over him. That's on me. But this part, the forged mortgage, the partnership with Stonebridge, the demotion of the owner to server plan, that's on you. And you will answer for it. You can't take my kids away, she shrieked. I'll tell the judge you're abusive. I'll say you hit them. Madison, I said, my voice turning to ice, I have never raised a hand to anyone in this family, but I will pick up every legal stone I can find and turn it over until the court sees exactly who has been exploiting whom. You want to drag the children into this? The court will read the mortgage documents you forged while their father trusted you. You might get what you want, a different house, with supervised visitation. Silence. You're a monster, she whispered. No, I said. I'm a grandfather who has decided he is done watching you use his son as a shield and his grandchildren as bargaining chips. You forgot something, Madison. This town remembers who built Blake's Prime. And when Stonebridge is gone, you and Derek will be nothing more than two people who bet against the wrong old man. I hung up before she could answer. 3 days later, the sheriff stood at the hostess stand with a clipboard and a court order. Derek tried to bluster, tried to wave some email from corporate about a temporary injunction, but the judge's signature on the page was real. Stonebridge staff had 24 hours to vacate the premises. Daniel and I stood outside as the corporate managers hauled boxes of files and computers to their cars. Some of the younger servers cried. The line cooks looked lost. Derek shouted into his phone, face red, spit flying. Look at me, I said softly to Daniel. What do you see? He swallowed hard, eyes shining. I see my dad, he said, standing where he used to stand. Only this time I know what it cost to get here. Good, I said. Remember that. We gave jobs to every hourly employee who wanted to stay. Some left immediately, loyal to their corporate benefits. Most stayed. They'd grown up on my recipes, too. We shut down for 10 days to repaint, reprint menus, and rip out everything Stonebridge had installed that we did not need. The chrome signage came down. The focus groups went home. The fancy digital menu boards were replaced with simple, clean designs where my handwriting marked the specials. On the 11th day, the lights of Blake's Prime came back on under a simple sign. Blake's Prime family owned since 1988, no corporate tagline, no hospitality group branding, just us. I worked 12-hour days, same as I used to. My knees ached, my back complained, and my cardiologist would have scolded me if he'd seen me lifting boxes. But every time I saw Daniel in the kitchen calling orders instead of taking them, Every time I watched my granddaughter Lily carefully wiping down menus after school, every time the twins sat at the end of the bar doing homework while the staff slipped them fries, I felt 20 years younger. Madison tried to stir trouble. She told anyone who would listen that I had stolen the restaurant back, that I was manipulating Daniel, that I was some kind of criminal mastermind. But the town knew me. They remembered who had donated food to the volunteer fire department when the station burned down. They remembered who had hosted fundraisers for the soccer team. They remembered Ellen's smile and my habit of walking through the dining room and refilling coffee cups myself. Stonebridge sent a cease and desist letter claiming we were infringing on their brand elements. Karen sent a single-page letter back, attaching the court order, the default notice, and a copy of the article from the local paper titled, "Local Family Reclaims Beloved Steakhouse After Corporate Fiasco." We never heard from them again. As for Madison, the state suspended her notary license pending the outcome of the investigation. The district attorney ultimately gave her a plea deal: no jail time if she cooperated fully, paid fines, and agreed to supervised financial counseling for any future business ventures. In family court, that did not look good. Daniel, with Karen's help, petitioned for joint custody. The judge looked at the mortgage fraud, at the Stonebridge mess, at the scare tactics. He granted Daniel equal time with the kids and ordered Madison not to interfere with his relationship with them. On our first Friday night after the reopening, the dining room was full. Some came for the drama, some for the nostalgia, some because they wanted to see if the old man still knew how to run a kitchen. Daniel stood at the pass, calling out orders, sweat on his brow, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. He caught my eye occasionally, and each time there was a spark there I had not seen in years. Pride. Not arrogance, not entitlement. Pride in doing the work. During a lull, Lily slipped up next to me. "Grandpa," she whispered, tugging my sleeve, "are we going to keep the restaurant forever?" I looked at her, at the twins wrestling over a coloring book in the booth by the kitchen, at my son plating a perfectly medium-rare ribeye with a precision that would have made Ellen glow. "That," I said quietly, "depends on whether you three take better care of it than your dad did the first time." She frowned thoughtfully. "We will," she said. "I'll make sure." I believed her. Later that night, when the last table left and the staff finished their side work, Daniel and I stood alone in the darkened dining room. Chairs were turned upside down on tables. The smell of grilled meat had faded, replaced by lemon cleaner and tired satisfaction. "Dad," he said, breaking the silence, "do you ever regret leaving in the first place?" I thought about Qatar, the money, the empty apartment I lived in for 5 years, the calls I missed, the ones he missed, the way grief had made us both into people we were not. "I regret leaving you without better armor," I said. "I regret assuming you'd know how to say no to someone like Madison. I regret giving you the castle without teaching you how to defend it." He nodded slowly. "I'm sorry I lost it," he said. "You didn't lose it," I said. "You handed it to the wrong people. There's a difference. One is an accident, the other is a choice. You chose wrong once. I chose wrong first. Now we both get to spend the rest of our lives making better choices. Or not. That's the deal." He smiled faintly. "Is it weird that I'm grateful for all this? Even the hard parts?" "It means you're learning," I said. We stood there, two men in the dim light of a restaurant that had been nearly buried under paperwork and greed. My son, the waiter, was gone. In his place stood a man who had been broken by his own mistakes and the manipulations of people who claimed to love him, and who had decided to stand up anyway. I had my steakhouse back, and more importantly, I had my son back. As for Madison and Derek, they lived on the other side of town now, in a smaller townhouse, without Stonebridge expense accounts or free rides. Sometimes I see Derek's car drive by the restaurant, slowing for a moment at the sight of the full parking lot, the warm glow through the windows, the sign that bears my name. He doesn't come in. He is not welcome here. So now I sit here after closing, the lights dimmed, the grill cooling, writing this story while the smells of char and spice linger in the air. A grandfather who went halfway around the world and came back to find his son working as a waiter in the steakhouse he had given him. A father who chose not to walk away, not to shrug and say, "You made your bed, lie in it," but instead decided to pull the whole bed out from under the people who set it on fire. I gave my son one last chance and took back everything from the people who used him. They lost their comfort, their schemes, their easy money. He gained a hard-earned future. Tell me honestly, did I go too far by buying back the debt, exposing the fraud, and forcing Stonebridge and Madison out of our lives? Or, if you were in my place, would you have gone even further?
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales like this, hit subscribe.